Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer, the board game review show that knows that Dr. Frankenstein was never lonely. He was quite good at making friends. Ladies and gentlemen, speaking of Frankenstein, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at Horrified from Ravensburger.
Because I'm Frankenstein's monster, don't mean my name be Frankenstein. I was given a name by master, just call me Stu and everything's fine. But everybody just calls me monster. I don't have a place to call my own. I just keep on looking for my master. He let me in this world alone. I'm evil, incarnate, gosh darn it. Whoa, 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 I'm evil, incarnate, gosh darn it. When my master put
In Horrified from Ravensburger, 1 to 5 players take on the role of various heroes that are attempting to thwart the plans of some evil, evil, evil monsters. Now, the game board is a map of the village, which has various locations on it. Each player is going to go ahead and take on the role of a hero. They're randomly going to select their hero, and their hero little badge is going to have how many actions they can take each turn at the top, as well as any special abilities that character has at the bottom. At the beginning of the game, players are going to select which monsters they're going to fight. Now, in the introductory game, it just says to fight the creature from the Black Lagoon as well as Dracula, but there are other monsters you can play. You can play the Frankenstein's monster and his bride. You can play the Wolfman. You can play against the Wolfman, play against the Mummy. There's different monsters that you can take on. These are, of course, the classic universal monsters. Now, each monster is defeated a little bit differently. For instance, Dracula, you have to go ahead and smash his 4 coffins around the board before you can defeat him. The creature from the Black Lagoon, you have to move his boat before you can get into a position to defeat him. Dracula, or Frankenstein's monster, rather, and his bride, you have to kind of get them to the point where they can both fall in love. You have to cure the Wolfman, and you have to kind of solve the puzzle of the Mummy in order to beat these specific monsters. There's also the Invisible Man. You just have to even prove that he exists before you can get rid of that guy. Now, essentially, turns are broken up into 2 phases. You have the heroes phase, and then you have the monster phase. Now, during the hero phase, essentially, you can take as many actions, as I say, as printed on your hero badge. You can do things like move. Essentially, every space costs an action to move. If you are in the same space with a villager that has come out during the game, you can move 1 space with them, or you can actually guide them. You can pull them to you or push them away from you. If you're in a space with a number of items, for 1 action you can pick up all the items in that space and put them in next to your badge. If you are in the same space as another hero, you can go ahead and share any items that you have, and they can share back with you. That's only 1 action to do that. You can also, if you're in a position to advance a monster's task, you can go ahead and do that and advance the task on the monster's board. And then you can also defeat a monster. If you're in the same space as the monster or in the location where you have to defeat them, you can go ahead and defeat that monster as part of one of your actions. Now, you also have special actions, special abilities, those can trigger, and you also have perk cards that you will be able to play and come out, and essentially you get perk cards by rescuing villagers. If you can get a villager to their safe location, you can draw a perk card that will help you in the game. Now, during the monster phase, you're going to draw a monster card. Now, at the top of the monster card, there's a number. That's the number of items you're going to draw out of the bag. You pull them out of the bag, and they say what the item is and where you place it. And you place that item in the appropriate area. They're usually different colors, red, blue, and yellow, and you place them all around the board in wherever it tells you to place them. Now, in the middle of the card, you typically will have some kind of an event. Now, usually it involves a monster. Now, if you're not playing with that monster, you just ignore it. It doesn't matter. Otherwise, you do whatever it says, move the monster or attack the monster, do whatever you're directed to do to the monster in the game. Now, at the very bottom, you have the monster strike. Essentially, it's going to tell you which monsters move, how far they move, or if they're in a location or end their location with a hero, how many dice they're going to roll to attack that hero. In addition to the monsters, now again, if there's a monster on there that's not in the game, you just ignore it. But in addition to the active monsters you see, there's also going to be a frenzy token. Now, that frenzy token, you place that on a monster, and when the frenzy comes out, you're going to actually move that frenzy token, but before you do, you're going to move whichever monster had the frenzy token. They're going to also do that movement and that attack. Now, generally speaking, heroes can move through monsters okay, that's not a problem, but when a monster comes in and it attacks you, you may be in trouble. Essentially, the monster is going to roll a die. Now, the monster, if it rolls the strike, however many strikes it gets, you can essentially get rid of that many items. So if it hits you 3 times, if you got 3 items, you just discard those items, no harm done. But if you cannot deflect one of those hits, then essentially you have to go to the hospital, and the threat track advances by 1. Also, the monster may roll an exclamation point. That's its special ability. It will trigger its special ability and let it do something very nasty to the heroes. Monsters will also attack villagers, and a villager cannot defend itself. If ever there's a villager and the monster attacks it by itself, that villager is removed, and the threat track advances by 1. It can't stop it. Now, some of the cards, when they come out, they may tell you to place villagers. They may give you some other kinds of actions to do as well. But essentially, this is the game. You're going around and around. You're trying to collect the necessary items in order to fulfill the tasks of trying to get the monsters. And as you're moving around back and forth, you're trying to avoid the monsters and not get attacked, and certainly not be sent to the hospital, which will advance that threat track. If ever that threat track gets to the end space, then boom, evil is overrun the town, the monsters win. If ever the monster deck runs out, then again, the monsters win. But if the heroes are successful in defeating the monsters, then they win Horrified. First of all, I got to tell you, I love the aesthetic of Horrified. I love these classic Universal monsters. I've always really loved these guys. Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, the Wolfman, etc., etc. I really love these monsters, and they're so much fun to play with and so much fun to have in a game. And I wish there were more games that kind of had this Universal IP that could do this, because I love these monsters so much. And the game kind of feels like, if you ever remember the movie Monster Squad, when I was a kid, I loved Monster Squad. And this game really kind of reminds you of that, because you're fighting these monsters, obviously. But it's fun. It's a very basic cooperative game. This is a very simple, basic cooperative game. Not hard at all, not hard to play, not hard to teach. It's a simple, simple game. But it's still very fun. It's fun because of the theme, because of the spookiness. It's just a good, engaging, light game. Some people may be turned off because it is so light, but at the same time, I say it's light, but at the same time, you get those monsters out there. You play with 3 monsters. It's tough. It is a tough game. And, you know, I haven't tried with 4 or anything. If you did that, that'd be impossible, I think. 2 is doable, but you get to 3, and it gets tough. So, I mean, it's a simple game to play. It's not necessarily a simple game to win. You can play with 1 player, so it would be solo, too. But it's just a good game, and I think people, again, this is a good one, a good gateway game into cooperative games, a good gateway game into genre gaming. I think it's just, it serves wears a lot of hats here, so I think that is really cool. But it's just fun. I love the theme. I think it's a good game. You and your friends, you're getting nervous. Are we going to do it? Are we going to make this in time? Are we going to get here? Okay, you go here, you can do that. There's a negotiation of how we're each going to play out. It's a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed Horrified quite a bit. With that in mind, I got to tell you, the recommendation for the Discriminating Gamer, once again, an absolute no-brainer. Horrified is awesome. You're going to want to buy this one. Thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. We are The Discriminating Gamer, and of course, ladies and gentlemen, Frankenstein was the name of the doctor. It was Dr. Frankenstein. The real monster is the person who watches this video and doesn't subscribe.
But I was given the voice of an angel, given the voice of a dove. I was given a heart that's too big, but a heart that's filled with love. I've been given the voice of an angel, given the voice of a dove. I've been given a heart that's too big, but a heart that's filled with love.
What's gonna do? Play another Cthulhu game? Ha! Cthulhu ain't nothing!